Hi, I'm Heléna Star and I'm having a conversation with Mixmag and W Hotels to explore some challenges that women are facing in our industry today. And I'll be talking to Cici about how she's forged her own path within it. Hello Cici, where you are right now looks absolutely amazing. Whereabouts are you?
Hello Heléna. Yeah, well, it is amazing. I am in a penthouse suite in the W Ibiza. I don't really think it gets any nicer than this.
Well, we're also in the W Hotel penthouse suite, and I think this is actually where the Martinez brothers did a launch show for W Ibiza, which you were apparently at.
I think I was also at that party, yes. But, you know, I was rocking around with some cosmopolitans or whatever they were serving, but that was a brilliant party.
I'm very, very jealous. Okay, so let's get started. For those who don't know, please could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Cici. I'm from Dublin. I live in Ibiza. I've been a DJ for 10, nearly 11 years. And I am a dog fanatic. So if you have a dog, we're automatically friends.
And Cici, what is it about Ibiza that you love so much?
There's so much that I love about Ibiza. I think the main thing is just there is an essence and like a soul in this island. Like as soon as you land here, and especially somewhere like Santa Eulalia, which is, you know, more chilled, beautiful restaurants by the beach, like you kind of get overwhelmed with this kind of like Balearic vibe, and you're just, you know, you move slower, the day is longer, you're more chilled out. Like specifically, I just love the soul of the island, you know, and that even though it's gone through many phases over the years, the vibe remains the same for me. That the heart and soul of the island is the same. It's just like there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be.
So let's talk a bit about your background. How and when did you start as a DJ?
I started DJing actually when I was in college, and I'd set up like a club night with one of my friends, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. This is about 11 years ago, so I do have an idea now. But at the time, I think that, you know, when I played my first ever gig or whatever, like it was so casual, you know, I don't think I'd ever even touched a set of decks in my life before that night. That's kind of how I started, and there's just been many twists and turns on the journey and on the bend that have led me here.
Could you tell us a bit about that journey between your passion and turning it into your actual career?
I had been kind of working in different aspects of the music industry before. When I was 21, I moved to Ibiza for the first time with like no real plan, like many people do. And I actually ended up my first season being a podium dancer for like DC-10, Space, all of these parties, Ushuaia. So I kind of found a way then to be able to work for the parties and work in the industry that I really loved, but maybe not in the position that I wanted to be in, but I was still able to be involved. So I was kind of just, yeah, doing what I could to get to where I am, really.
You have your own radio show on Open Lab called Curiosities. Do you feel like you express yourself differently on a radio show than you do in the club?
100%, like 1,000,000,000%. And I really feel for me, it's been so great to have that outlet of Curiosities. And, you know, I'm 10 months into it now. So it's really been like a little personal journey for me too, that I've been able to express myself in ways that like I never did have an outlet for. And yeah, it's kind of really given me a more of a rounded sense of who I am as an artist actually, and what I do represent. Having the space to do just what I want to do, the stuff that like I could never play in a club, you know, the weird B-side kind of left field tracks that you don't really have anywhere else or anyone else to play them for.
And you mentioned that you found some challenges. Could you tell us about the challenges you found on the way, or some that you're still facing today?
Everyone's journey is different, and you do kind of have to earn your stripes. I found that some of the struggles I felt that, you know, maybe based on, say, even having a history of being a dancer and all this stuff, that maybe that didn't necessarily work in my favor initially.
focus on intersectionality nowadays. What intersections have you found that have defined your journey?
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, not to play upon the obvious, but I mean, in some ways, you know, being a female, also maybe being quite a feminine female, you know, like that. I think a lot of the time, like I've been in so many situations where people have been like, are you the DJ? It even happened to me recently where I was doing a live stream, okay, and the guy who was filming it, I was sitting there, I got there early, I was there like half an hour before we had to start filming. I was all glammed up because I'm, you know, because I like to get glammed up and I'm going to be on camera. And yeah, so I'm sitting there like waiting kind of for everyone to get set up, and the cameraman turns around, he says to someone, another member of the crew, he says, "Sure, there's no DJs here yet anyway." And I was like, sitting here like, hello, like, what the hell do you think I'm doing here, dressed to the nines, you know? So there's little things like that you can still notice. I mean, it's laughable. I laugh about it now. I don't get offended by it, but I still notice that. Yeah, I kind of sometimes it's for some reason people might not presume that I'm doing what I'm doing straight off the bat.
And we've heard a lot about allyship over the past few years with minority-led movements. Have you seen any examples of allyship that you've thought was done really well, especially as a woman in music?
Well, I think Jaguar is a great example of an ally, you know. I think what she's doing with the Future 1000 DJs is just incredible, and the initiative is amazing, and I feel like people like her specifically who are really kind of using her platform to make a difference, you know, to like, I'm nearly getting goosebumps talking about it sitting here. So it's very important, I think, in 2021 to know where you stand on these kind of things and to be supportive of the minority groups.
And to create that kind of community.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, like you can see it, like I see with a lot of DJs who are like coming up through the ranks and stuff, and makes me really happy to see people that I've known for years really get their moment, you know, and I feel like this industry is huge, there's enough space for us all to succeed really, and you know, growing together and coming up together and working together and collaborating is kind of like the way that the movement really rolls, you know. It's by being by supporting each other instead of competing with each other.
And another focus from 2020 was the rise of BLM and the movement around that, and also performative action. What's your take on that? Are we better with it, or are we better without it?
I think we're better with it. I think, you know, there was like, I still feel like there's obviously so much work in this world left to do on the subject of like BLM, you know, like, and I feel like it will be in our lives' work to make sure that even going down to the next generations and stuff, that we stand super firm about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in this day and age, especially in dance music, because of the history and the fact that it comes from black culture, and you know, house and techno, as we all know, stemmed there. So I think it's really important that anyone who even gets into it now is aware of the history and where it came from, and pays homage to that in some way, or respect.
Could you tell us one major positive and maybe one major hard lesson that you have found through this all?
I'll get the bad one out of the way. The hard lesson was that nothing is guaranteed in this world. And, you know, I was kind of, I had some gigs lined up before the pandemic had really hit that were like my life. This was like I'm not going to say it because I don't maybe want to jinx it in the future, but my life absolute goal, like I was made up, and then, you know, I woke up one day and I basically didn't have a job, or you know, gigs to pay my rent, or then a house, or, you know, there was like a domino knock-on effect of the pandemic for all, like any creative really who the rug was just whipped out from underneath us. And the positive is that we can get through anything really, because the positive side is that no matter how bad it does get, and I hope and I don't think it's going to get worse than it did last year, but the positive is that we can overcome it, you know. If someone had told me that I was going to go through what I went through last year, I would have been like, there's no way in hell, do you know what I mean, I'm going to be able to survive this. But here I am, so that's the positive.
And a bit more about you as a DJ. What is the best piece of advice that you have been given?
I actually don't know if I've been given this piece of advice, but I think it's like a famous quote. I think it could be like Theodore Roosevelt or something, and that's comparison is the thief of joy. We can all, get a little bit distracted by what our peers are doing, and I think that's the most toxic thing, is to get into that mindset that focusing on what other people are doing and not focusing just solely on what you're doing. And if you keep focused on your own path, and day by day, week by week, month by month, you make that little progress, and you've got that focus, regardless, you will have to just go forward. It's the only way to go if you follow those rules. So I think, to just cut out the comparison for anyone. Just try not listen to that little voice in your head, because it's not good for you.
And taking a moment for vulnerability and honesty, what is the biggest fear you've had as a woman in the industry, and how have you been able to overcome it?
I think, it's the fear of effing up, really. I do have a fear of effing things up. And I do F things up very few and far between, but I fight that all the time. There's a voice in my head sometimes that will come in and be like, oh, well, this could happen or that could happen. And I just have to really, really just be like, no, go away. It's not going to happen. I got this.
I guess that's what makes us human though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't wake up every day and think I'm great. So there's there's a human element to it. I think people can be either one side. You have to find the balance. You can't be too much on the doubting yourself vibe, and you can't be too overconfident about your ability vibe. You have to sit somewhere where you're still a little bit hungry and a little bit eager to learn.
And what would you say to younger female musicians who were wanting to get into this industry? What would be your advice to them?
My advice would be to maybe find allies, as well. It depends what situation you're coming from, and I feel like it is quite hard sometimes. I feel some of the most talented DJs and producers maybe will never get to hear their music or see them play, because they could be just incredibly talented people in their bedrooms or in their studios, and they don't really have the confidence or the means to put themselves out there. So I feel like what would be good advice for people would be to really engage with the places and the people that where you want to see yourself with. That could be a radio station you like, engage with the radio station, or it could be a record label you like, engage with the record label, engage with the people. This is it's hard to really be plucked out of obscurity these days and discovered. You really do have to put yourself in the position you want to be in to get that chance, There's plenty of them that will come. So, I guess just put yourself out there and be confident.